Hi, I'm Roger Cole. I'm 33, and 3 months ago, I walked into a courtroom thinking I'd lose everything, only to realize I'd already given too much. The first thing you need to understand is that I wasn't born bitter. I was trained by birthday cards that came with gift receipts, by a family calendar where every square had my sister's name on it, and mine just said, rent due. I'm not saying I was perfect, but I was consistent. The man who showed up, paid up, shut up. That training led me to 7 years of doing the impossible, funding my sister's medical school journey without falling into a ditch myself. That included tuition, rent, clinical rotation expenses, test prep courses that cost more than my car. And I'm not exaggerating. My car had a pull cord to start it for 2 winters. I told myself I was building something, that when Nora became a doctor, I could exhale. But the truth is, people like me don't get to exhale. We just get told to hold our breath a little longer. The last real family dinner I attended was the week before our grandfather died. Nora had just gotten her residency match. Big deal. Balloons, Instagram posts, the whole thing. I was there, holding the camera, as always. Then Mom pulled me aside and said, like she was giving me a weather update, "Let Nora have the house. It'll help her start her life. Be reasonable." I said, "The will hasn't even been read." She smiled like I was being silly. "Roger, she sacrificed so much." I didn't laugh. I should have, because I know who sacrificed. I saw the bank statements. I lived the skipped meals. I was the sacrifice. Then Grandpa died. The will was read. And surprise, he saw me, really saw me. The house, the watch, most of the inheritance. He gave Nora the lake cabin jointly with me and less money, not because she wasn't loved, but because she hadn't paid the price. Nora didn't take that well. She sued me, not quietly, not with a phone call. With a summons delivered by a man who looked genuinely embarrassed. She claimed I'd manipulated Grandpa in his final year, alleged I'd taken control of his finances, that the inheritance was unjust, that the house was hers. I sat on my couch, looked at the envelope of documents I'd been keeping for years, tuition receipts, loan records, every rent payment with her name on it, and I realized she'd mistaken my silence for weakness. She was about to learn what I really do for a living. I don't just find missing people, I find truth. The first person I called was Eva. She used to work corporate law until she realized billing clients by the 6-minute increment was turning her into someone who kept measuring her own grief in tenths of an hour. Now she freelances. Good at contracts, better at calling bullshit. I told her what Nora was claiming. "She's accusing you of elder abuse?" Eva asked, deadpan. "After you paid for her entire education." "She says I unduly influenced Grandpa while he was cognitively declining." Eva paused. "Was he declining?" "No," I said. "He was playing chess with a retired professor every Thursday and quoting Shakespeare when he lost." "So we're not fighting over facts," she said. "We're fighting over feelings dressed up as evidence." Exactly. I handed her the envelope, 7 years of paper proof, but even more important, I handed her a smaller one I'd kept hidden. Inside, the letter Grandpa wrote to Nora, still sealed, still untouched. I'd found it in his chessboard drawer after the funeral, with my name scribbled on the back. It was meant for her. I never opened it. "Roger," Ava said, narrowing her eyes. "If this letter helps your case, it's hers," I said. "She'll open it in court or not at all. You want the judge to see who she is, without forcing it." I nodded. "I want her to reveal herself trying to bury me." The court date was set. Thursday morning. I wore my one good suit, the one I'd worn to Grandpa's funeral. The tie still smelled like old coffee from a stakeout gone wrong. In the hallway, my dad gave me a weak smile, the kind he used when asking for help with something he already knew was unfair. "Let's not make a scene," he said. Mom chimed in. "We can still fix this." "I'm not the broken part," I said, and walked in. Nora didn't even look at me, just sat beside her high-priced attorney in a tailored blazer she'd definitely not bought on a resident's salary. Eva leaned over and whispered, "Let's see how good she is at fiction." And then it began. Nora took the stand, all clean lines and clinical polish. She painted a picture of a selfless young woman whose brother had taken financial control of their grandfather in the final years, cutting her off, manipulating the will. She cried once. On cue, Eva didn't interrupt. We let the rope unspool. Then it was my turn. I didn't do a dramatic speech. I didn't raise my voice. I just answered every question Eva asked, one after another, with the clarity of someone who had nothing left to lose. Where did the money go? To Nora. Why? Because she was my sister. Because I believed in her. Eva handed over the receipts, the transfers, the rent ledgers. Then came the letter. I walked it to the bailiff myself. "She hasn't seen it," I told the judge. I thought it should be read now, by her. Nora looked rattled. For the first time all morning, she hesitated, then broke the seal. She read the first line. Her hand trembled. I didn't smile, because this wasn't revenge. It was a mirror, and she'd finally seen her reflection. Nora's face didn't crack. Not quite, but if you've ever watched a building start to collapse in slow motion, the kind of controlled demolition where the windows bow outward just before the frame folds in on itself, that's what it looked like. She read the letter once, then again. The courtroom was so quiet you could hear the judge's pen stop mid-scratch. Her lawyer leaned toward her, whispered something. She didn't respond, just kept folding the letter, slowly, carefully, like she could reduce it to a memory she didn't have to carry. The judge cleared his throat. Miss Cole, would you like to summarize the contents for the court? Nora blinked like she'd forgotten where she was. It's private, she said softly. The judge didn't flinch. You opened it during a public proceeding. You filed the claim. It's now discovery. She stared down at her lap. Then, in a voice that sounded like someone learning how to say the truth for the first time, she said, Grandpa said Roger should have the house, because Roger doesn't ask for things, and I've been given enough. It didn't land like a confession. It landed like a power cord being yanked from the wall. Mom gasped quietly. Dad didn't move. Just looked at her like a stranger had spoken with his daughter's voice. Ava nodded slowly and stood. We also have additional evidence, Your Honor. Exhibit C. She handed over a folder. Screenshots, dozens of them, group texts, DMs, messages from Nora to our mother, to friends, to classmates. All of them tying the neat little bow around her case. Roger won't say no. He never does. Keep the loans in his name. It's cleaner. If something happens, I can guilt him into forgiving it. I'll scare him with legal. He'll fold. He's wired for guilt. Nora's attorney objected. Lack of foundation. Eva laid it, stone by stone. It's her phone number, her handle, her timestamps. These were forwarded by multiple contacts who received them directly. We have affidavits from 2 of them. The judge flipped through the pages slowly, like each one was a nail. Then he looked at Nora. Counsel, he said to her attorney, your client's position is untenable. Unless you wish to proceed to trial and risk a ruling with sanctions and fees, I recommend you take 5 minutes to discuss dismissal. With prejudice. Her lawyer turned red. Nora didn't move. She just sat there. The letter folded small in her hand, her mouth drawn tight like she'd bitten into something bitter and couldn't spit it out in public. And then, just when I thought we were done, the judge said one more thing. Softly, almost kindly. Miss Cole, your brother isn't a bank. He's not a stepping stone. He's a person. And your debts didn't disappear just because they came with applause. And then he laughed. Not cruelly, not smugly, just a short, incredulous laugh, like the whole thing had finally tilted into absurdity. My mother flinched. Nora went pale. And me? I breathed, fully, deeply, for the first time in years. The hallway outside the courtroom felt colder than when we walked in. It wasn't the air conditioning, it was the silence. Nora sat on a bench with her arms folded tightly across her stomach like something inside her was trying to get out. Her lawyer stood a few feet away, pretending to check emails, already emotionally billing another client. My parents huddled together by the vending machine. Dad looked stunned. Mom looked like someone had slapped her with a wet dish towel labeled truth. Eva scribbled the settlement draft on the back of a legal pad. 1 page. Neat block letters. Dismissal with prejudice. No contestation of the will. Immediate cessation of all contact with my clients. No future claims. Sign here, she said, holding it out to Nora. Nora read it like she might find a secret exit if she squinted hard enough. Then she picked up the pen. Her hand hovered. You humiliated me, she muttered. You sued me, I said. You didn't have to do it like this. You mean with receipts? Sorry, my whole life's been one big itemized list. You just never noticed until now. She scrawled her name. Not a flourish, just a submission. Eva took the signed copy and walked off to find a clerk who could stamp it before it lost its heat. Mom approached me with a look she used to reserve for dropped dishes and inconvenient feelings. Roger, she said, soft but sharp. We are still a family. No, I said. We're people related by blood. That's not the same thing. I was upset, she said. I didn't mean... You said my only job was to sacrifice. Her face went slack. I nodded slowly. And for years I believed you. Nora was standing now, folding Grandpa's letter so small I swear she could have swallowed it if no one was watching. She didn't apologize, didn't thank me. She just said, I worked hard too. So did I said. The only difference is, I never billed you for it. She flinched. Dad spoke for the first time in an hour. Let's do brunch, just us. No paperwork. Eva returned in time to hear that. She glanced at me. I've had better brunch invites. From divorce mediations. I laughed once, loud enough that Nora blinked. No brunch, I said. I turned to go. Eva followed. In the elevator, I asked, did I overdo it? She shook her head. Roger, you underdid it. That was you being polite. When I got home, I unlocked the front door of my house, with a key that felt heavier than it used to. Not because it weighed more, because it meant more. I dropped the envelope of evidence in the fire safe box. I took off my tie. And then, because I wanted to feel something that didn't cost me anything, I ordered the most irresponsible pizza of my life. Extra cheese. No coupon. I ate it on the living room floor, cross-legged, with the 1958 Omega ticking on my wrist, and the kind of silence that doesn't hurt. The kind that says, you're not a placeholder anymore. You're home. The next morning I woke up late, not accidentally, not because I overslept, but because for once I let myself. No alarms, no urgent texts from family group chats asking for rides or rent or a quick loan we'll pay back next month. Just the light coming through the old blinds and the soft tick of Grandpa's watch on the nightstand like a metronome for a life finally set at my own pace. I made coffee, real coffee, not the freeze-dried crime scene I'd been drinking during my debt years. I even toasted a bagel and sat on the porch to eat it, like some guy in a commercial who knows the names of his neighbors and what day the trash goes out. Halfway through breakfast, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered. Roger, hi, came Nora's voice, all bright and brittle, like she was auditioning for forgiveness. I didn't say anything. She cleared her throat. I wanted to see if you got in the coffee I left on your porch after the hearing. Yes, the peace offering that had sat there until it went cold and I poured it down the sink. I got it, I said. Thanks. She hesitated. So, maybe we could talk sometime, reset. No. Silence. I'm not doing amnesia, I added. I didn't mean... You want to start over, Nora. That requires a start. What we had wasn't a relationship. It was a ledger. You added things up until you convinced yourself I owed you. I've been paying you back, she said quickly. Yeah, I said. You dropped your invoice. That's not the same thing. She didn't respond, just breathed hard into the receiver like the wind-up had started for another monologue. I hung up before it landed. 10 minutes later, Mom texted a group photo from someone's baby shower. Nora was smiling in it. I wasn't tagged. I deleted it. Dad called the next day, said, the lawn's getting overgrown at our place. Thought you might swing by with the mower. I blinked. You know there are numbers you can call for that, right? He laughed, awkward. Come on, it's not a big ask. It's not a me ask anymore, I said. Hope the grass likes jazz. I hung up before he could pretend it was just a joke. That weekend I did something I hadn't done in years. I went to the lake cabin, alone. The one Grandpa left to both of us, because he thought we'd figure it out. I brought tools, cleaned the gutters, fixed the rickety screen door, stood on the dock and let the wind slap some of the leftover bitterness out of me. It wasn't dramatic, no tears, no big realization, just a quiet thought I hadn't let myself think before. What would life look like if it wasn't always about giving? I opened a new savings account when I got home, named it Cabin Fund. Then I texted Nora one line. Let me know when you're ready to split costs. 50-50, no shortcuts. She replied with a heart emoji, no words. I stared at it for a full minute. Then I closed the app. Because silence these days? That was my choice. A month after the hearing, I got the first payment. It was $500. Memo line said, first. Lowercase, no punctuation, no apology. A week later, another $300. This time the memo read, sorry, late. 2 weeks of silence, then $1,000. No memo, just numbers. It wasn't enough to make a dent in 7 years of tuition and rent and textbooks with the plastic still on. But it was enough to confirm one thing. She remembered. She knew. She wasn't confessing, not outright, but in her own way, she was acknowledging the debt she'd claimed didn't exist. I didn't text back, didn't say thank you, didn't do the old Roger thing where I soothed and smoothed and made it easier for everyone to pretend nothing had cracked. I let it sit. That same week, I paid off the loans in my name, the ones I'd taken for her, the ones she'd promised to refinance. I used the inheritance Grandpa left me. Watching that balance hit zero was like cutting off a splintered rope I'd forgotten was still dragging behind me. And when it cleared, I made a grilled cheese. Real butter, extra cheddar, no guilt, a kind of sacrament. After that, my work changed too. I stopped saying yes to the shady gigs, the angry ex-husbands who wanted dirt, the sketchy landlords asking for tenant background checks, but thorough. If someone wanted to pay me to hurt someone else, I said no, even when I needed the cash. Instead, I took more custody cases, elder abuse claims, runaway minors, the kinds of cases that leave you heavy at the end of the day, but clean. Turns out, I'm good with people who are used to not being heard. The day everything clicked was a Thursday. I was meeting a woman named Dana, whose ex had stolen her dog in the middle of a breakup. Not the furniture, not the apartment, the dog. She cried when I handed her the leash back. He was wagging like mad. She dropped to her knees and buried her face in his fur. Whispered, "You brought him back to me." I didn't bill the last hour, didn't even think about it. When I got home, I put another deposit in the cabin fund. Small, but steady. I told myself, this is what rebuilding looks like. Not dramatic, just different. Then, one morning I saw Nora. She was coming out of the hospital in scrubs. Her posture all wrong angles, like a coat rack someone forgot to take down. We caught eyes across the street. She lifted a hand. I did the same. It wasn't forgiveness. It wasn't friendship. It was a handshake between two countries who now understand where the border is. And for once, I wasn't afraid she'd try to redraw it. I didn't hear from Nora again for 6 weeks. Then one Tuesday afternoon, the mail slot clacked. That sound used to fill me with dread. Bills, court notices, family holiday cards that came with obligations disguised as glitter, but this one was just an envelope. No return address. Inside, a cashier's check for $8,000 and a note. 4 words. For the spring, I'll keep going. N. No apology, no love, no guilt confetti, just a ledger entry in her handwriting. I held it for a minute before setting it down. My first instinct was to wonder if it was real. My second was to wonder if it mattered. It wasn't closure, but it was confirmation. She knew. She knew. I deposited it into the cabin fund, quietly, no ceremony. Then I made the kind of grilled cheese that makes nutritionists file reports. Extra cheese, thick bread, butter on both sides. I ate it on the porch while the motion sensor light clicked on and off every time a moth headbutted it. That's my new favorite metaphor for family. The moth that keeps trying to own the night. People kept reaching out, some furious. How could she do that to you? Some defensive. She was under pressure. She snapped. Let it go. Some well-meaning. You're so strong, Roger. You always do the right thing. And I'd nod, or thumbs up, or not respond at all. But strength isn't being the last one standing at a disaster site, sweeping up the glass with your bare hands. Strength is leaving before they hand you another broom. I didn't go to the next family dinner. Mom texted, "We missed you. It's not the same without you." I didn't reply. I think deep down she meant it like a compliment, but it read like a confession. I started making plans for the cabin. Just small stuff. A new dock ladder, paint for the porch, a water filter that actually works. I made a spreadsheet with tabs labeled maintenance, guests, quiet weekends, boundaries. I caught myself smiling in the grocery store once. For no reason, just walking past the cereal aisle like a man who hadn't been sued by his sister this year. That's the thing nobody tells you about healing. It doesn't feel dramatic. It feels ordinary. Like room temperature water after years of drinking from a fire hose. Sometimes I still miss the idea of what our family was supposed to be, but I've stopped trying to make everyone else comfortable while I drown. The door to my house opens from the inside now, and I don't leave it unlocked out of guilt. The real ending came on a Thursday, about a year to the day after the hearing. I was on the dock at the cabin, knees dusty from sanding a busted bench Grandpa never quite got around to fixing. The lake was still, windless, the kind of day that dares you to stop rushing and just exist. I took off the Omega watch and held it in my hand, let it tick. It used to sound like pressure. Now it just sounded like time passing. There was no dramatic last letter. No deathbed voicemail or sudden apology dropped into my inbox at 3 a.m. What I got was better. Consistency. Nora kept sending payments. Not every week, not even every month. But they came. No hearts, no strings, just progress. Like a ledger balancing itself $1 at a time. Some had memos like back pay or got extra shift. One just said, "Thanks for not burning the bridge." I didn't reply, but I noticed. And noticing is its own kind of forgiveness. The kind you give to yourself. Mom still sends out group texts like she's managing a company that's hemorrhaging morale. Dad called once to ask if I remembered where Grandpa's old fishing poles were. I told him yes. Then I didn't tell him where. Some people think that's petty, but it's not. It's peace. I don't hate them. I just don't attend the performance anymore. This house, it's not big. The porch light flickers when it rains. The stairs still creak like an old man telling ghost stories. But it's mine. And for the first time in my life, that's enough. I still work PI gigs. Still take the tough ones. The custody fights, the fraud cases, the people trying to reclaim something that got stolen without anyone breaking a window. I'm good at finding what's been hidden, even in myself. And on the good days, when the sky breaks open blue and the world smells like pine, I let myself want things. Not for others, not so I can call it a sacrifice, just because I can. Because strength isn't never saying no. It's saying no when it's right. It's recognizing that sacrifice without consent is just quiet abuse in a nicer outfit. People still say, "You're so strong, Roger." I used to think they meant I could carry anything. Now I know real strength is this: putting it down, walking away, locking your door, and not letting the next knock convince you that you owe someone your silence, your spine, or your last dollar just to be loved. I'm not a wallet. I'm not a background character. I'm not a job description someone else handed me. I'm Roger Cole, and I have my keys now. The door opens from my side. Always has. Always will.